Welcome to Nerdin' Out, the only podcast that will get you on the nice list just in time for Christmas. I'm your host, Duke Savage.
And I'm Ronin Hunter.
And today we're going to be discussing some topics to help close off the end of the year. Ronin, how are you?
Doing quite good. Kind of excited for this episode. This episode was a suggestion from one of our listeners of last episode. So
yes.
Just want to throw it out there that if any of you guys have any topics or stuff you want us to talk about, shoot us an email or leave us a comment on our YouTube page, Facebook, and we'll see if we can try to work it into a future episode.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was really apropos. We had a couple of episodes already planned, but I mean, this was more apropos than anything to kind of close out the end of the year for it. So I think it was a good suggestion.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're excited to go through the topics we're gonna talk to today. But well, let's catch up a little bit. How you doing, Duke?
I'm doing good. In the warm up, I asked for your forgiveness in advance, and I want to go ahead and let the listeners know. You might hear my dogs start yapping a little bit. My little one, Nova, she's being a little manipulative today. She keeps barking for a random reason. She's not barking at anything. She's barking at the front door, and she's side-eyeing my other dog, Dobie. And she's just trying to get him up in a rut. Like, she keeps barking, looking over at my other dog, and he's over here all confused, looking around like, what is it? What should I be barking at too? Is the castle under siege? So I apologize in advance if you hear my little chihuahua yapping. She's normally never like that. I have the two chihuahuas in the world that don't bark at all. And yet today, recording day, of course, they have to be up with their shenanigans. So apologies in advance.
I extend the same apology for mine because mine randomly like to just start playing. So if you hear anything in the background, don't worry. It's not domestic violence or anything like that. It's just the dogs having a bit of fun.
It's not your collar. It's theirs.
Right. Mine actually tore. So my Dom is getting it replaced.
Oh, what a good Dom. That's awesome. Very good. Oh boy, yeah, it's actually getting a little cooler too. I actually had to turn on the heater this morning. I normally like it very cold, but here in Texas, it's getting nice and chilly finally. A couple of days before Christmas.
Right, and it's actually a very pleasant surprise because we're used to the heat down here.
Yes.
So I'm one of those people that when we get cold weather, I try to enjoy it as much as possible because
absolutely.
Yeah, we don't get it too often, so it's a nice change of pace.
Definitely. I had to run to the store this morning, and there was actually ice on the car, and I was like, wow, this is great. It looks like we're going to have some rain on Christmas Eve. Yeah,
I heard about that. I don't know about if I like that or not.
Yeah.
But,
I'm not getting my hopes up for a white Christmas. We haven't had that since, I think, 96, so...
Yeah, it's been a while since we've had one.
Yeah.
If anything, the mountains here might be a little frosted.
Yeah,
but
yeah, we usually get some
level,
frosty mountains.
But I don't think ground level it's going to stick. If it even does.
So just another reminder to the listeners, if you want to go ahead and write in with your comments or suggestions, do so at the Facebook page. That is up and running now. And you can also do so, leave a comment, engage in the comments below in the YouTube video. So we will be listening.
Yes. And again, please try to keep it positive. We need that reinforcement.
Right.
Keep your criticisms constructive.
Yes.
Because we do try to take them to heart.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the topic of this episode will be the biggest disappointments, surprises of 2019. We're going to try to keep it nerd cultured. We have video games, movies in store to talk about, so I guess we can get into it if you have any other...
No, I think we're good to go.
Alrighty, so we're going to start off with the top biggest disappointments in 2019. So we're going to start with our veggies and then we'll end with dessert.
Right. So we're each of us came up with the top 5 disappointments and surprises for this past year. We're going to go ahead and go down the list and explain what's going on. Now, for my list, I just want to let you all know that it's not in any particular order. So just because it's at number 1 doesn't mean it was my number 1 for that list. It's just I have no sense of order in my mind, so I just kind of barf words onto paper.
Well, that's understandable. I think a lot of us can relate to that.
Yeah. And also, these are our personal opinions, so don't get up in arms about this. Everyone's got different opinions as to what disappointed them throughout the year, what surprised them throughout the year. But again, let us know what your disappointments and surprises for this past year were.
Yeah, we would definitely like to hear that, because I'm pretty sure you guys might have something that we didn't even think about that we should be talking about. But go ahead.
I have trouble remembering past 2 weeks ago, so I might have forgotten something, and you guys can help me remember.
That's what I was thinking about when I was curating this list. I was like, there has to be something else, but no, I think I can put together this list as best as I could.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and get started. Dan, you want to go ahead and start us off?
Yeah, so my number 5 biggest disappointment in 2019 was the new Hellboy movie that came out. Man, they really did an injustice to Ron Perlman and his works from what we were used to. I mean, the comics. And I want to start off by saying that, yes, I do understand that this newest movie did try to incorporate more of the comic book lore into it. And I say try because I really don't think that they really succeeded. I think that the person or the group of writers that wrote this movie had an amazing idea. But when it came to storyboarding and getting all of these all into one page, I think a lot of stuff was cut out. And I think their story was greatly sacrificed because of that. I think this whole introduction into the universe again, this whole retelling of it, lacked a lot of characterization of these characters that the original Hellboy movie had. It was so charming. Ron Perlman,
yes.
Everything was charming about it. Where this one, it seems like they tried to recreate it without any of the soul, any of the spirit. They made it a lot more gritty, a lot more I guess comic-esque, without a lot of the exposition was very stupid. Every scene they were just expositing as if it was on purpose to let us know what's happening, and it's like, that's not how characters really talk. In a stakeout, they don't just tell them their plans as if they weren't planning on this stakeout this entire time. It just cuts to the stakeout, and then they just start talking about what they're doing, who they're looking for, and it's just so inorganic. It was very, very weird, and that type of thing stunk throughout the entire movie. So that was really... And this is also going to be an unpopular opinion. I didn't like the actor that they chose to play Hellboy. I understand that he's a great actor and that he's really, I think it's David Harbour, and he's doing a lot of good things. He's the guy in Stranger Things. He's going to be the Red Guardian in Black Widow. He's doing a lot of good things, but in this movie, I don't think that he portrayed Hellboy as good as Ron Perlman.
Yeah. It was a bit of disappointing bit of news to hear about that, because first of all, like you, I am a huge fan of the Del Toro movies that came out.
Yes.
And it's been about 10 years or so.
It seems like, yeah.
Yeah. Those films were really charming. Del Toro does fantastic work using practical effects for monsters and creature designs. He's a real visionary when it comes to that kind of thing, and you can see that in all his other movies. And Ron Perlman was bang on as Hellboy. And when I heard wind of this, was it a remake? I don't know what you want to call it. Probably a reboot.
Yeah.
But I was very disappointed they didn't get either of them to come back. I remember watching some of the previews, and they did try to add some of the humor into it. I'm like, yeah, this looks kind of funny.
Yeah, I had high hopes.
Yeah, and it was like, oh, they're giving it, an R rating. That's pretty cool because they can go a little bit more than the other ones did.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just I ended up not seeing it because after hearing all the fans bash it on the net, I was like, I'll probably just wait for it to go on TV.
Yeah, and probably for the best, honestly, because I hold storytelling in movies and shows extremely high. It's something that is overlooked by a lot of moviegoers and TV show watchers, but the story, when written well, it is phenomenal. It really brings tears to your eyes when you can really enjoy the story, and all of the excess effects are just the cherry on top.
Right.
I truly believe that. And that might be, presumptuous for me to say, or, like I'm putting my nose up to that, but I mean, I really do feel like the Hellboy back then wasn't perfect. If you're going to compare the comics to that movie, obviously the comics will win every time.
Absolutely.
But yeah, I just feel like this one was a big letdown this year. So I don't really have too much else to spew on that. We all know that Ron Perlman was the man, so
yeah, and I don't know, maybe we'll see a return to form eventually. I don't know.
Maybe,
yeah.
maybe they can do something like what DC Universe is doing with all these other DC comics. I mean, maybe we can see an animated version that really kicks ass. Yeah,
that'd be totally dope. Or hopefully, very unlikely, but finally get that third movie that the Golden Army was hinting at. Yeah, very, very unlikely. I don't know if the people know, but the directors and producers, I believe, had a falling out, which Ron Perlman did not like. So he chose not to return without the original crew, which was probably smarter on his part. Or I agree. Who knows what might have come out of that? Yeah, that crew, the cast, they made those films. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, literally and and spiritually, they you can tell they had a blast making the movies, and you don't want to do something that the actors aren't going to enjoy, because then you get something like Blade 3 or Blade Trinity. Absolutely. The horror stories you hear from that, like Wesley Snipes, unless he was due on set, would never come out of his trailer. He never talked to anyone. He did not want to be a part of it, and it shows. So you don't want that to close out your trilogy, and I'm glad that if it ends like that, it's sad that it had to end like that, but it's better in the long run. Yeah, absolutely. So what is yours? What's your number 5? All right, my first one. I'll be doing more video games because I don't see a lot of movies. Okay. But my first one is a little bit of a weird one. It's Super Dragon Ball Heroes that came out on the Switch back in May. Now this one I got super excited for when I saw the trailer for it. Oh my gosh, the trailer was amazing. The trailer was really cool. They took the entire history of Dragon Ball from original Dragon Ball all the way up through Super and the movies. And they brought the card game that is it's an arcade card game from Japan that they made into a DS game, and they expanded that and brought it here on the Switch, and it looked really cool. But the trailer didn't show too much of that. And when I first saw it, I thought it was going to be like the Dragon Ball Super trading card game that came out a couple of years ago. Which is really fun game to play. It's like a mix between Yu-Gi-Oh! and Magic the Gathering. So I was like, oh, that's cool. I can get that, learn how to play the game and not have to drop hundreds and hundreds of dollars to get rare cards. Because that's the thing with the randomized booster packs. You're guaranteed one rare, but it's not guaranteed to be the one you want. Right. So then I got the game, and at first I really loved it. I poured in hundreds of hours. In fact, I got my email from Nintendo. It's my end of year report. That was one of my
dude, hundreds of hours.
Yes, it was. It was one of my top 3 games of the year that I played the most.
Jeez.
And I was very excited for it. And then I started to hit that wall. It's like, this is getting super easy, and there's no challenge to it. And it's starting to get repetitive. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up actually never finishing the main story because it got super easy. There was no challenge. You can throw a deck together with any cards and defeat a boss character, and that's not the way you should do it. Online was very spotty for me. I couldn't connect half the time to a lot of players, and when you did connect, they're all using the same decks. They're all using the same cards.
I can see how that's gonna be bland really quickly.
Yeah, and combat itself is really cool because you form your team of characters, and you play another team, and each battle takes place over 5 rounds, and both sides gets a chance to attack each other. And they do like these really flashy, DBZ-esque, fights and stuff. Yeah. It looks really cool, but there's really no skill involved because regardless of how strong your cards are, the damage dealt is always done by I guess it's like a quick time event. It brings up a meter that rapidly fills up and empties, and you have to try and stop it at the most full. And the team that has the bar filled up the most is the one that deals damage. So if you're an attacker and you fill it up, you're dealing max damage. But if you're a defender and you beat the attacker, you're nullifying all damage. So there's really no skill involved in terms of building your deck. Yeah, there's really not much strategy. And that was just really disappointing for me because I was really looking forward to a game like this. Dragon Ball is one of the series that got me into anime. It got me into drawing.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'm a huge fan of it. It fell short for me. Granted, I think I got my money's worth out of it, considering how much I played it. But
yeah, that's a very good point to add.
Yeah, so that's why it's the first one I'm mentioning, because it's a disappointment because it wasn't what I originally was thinking of doing, but it still was fun for what I got out of it.
That's good.
But it's a very niche. It was very, very niche kind of game. Yeah, it wouldn't appeal to a lot of gamers unless they're hardcore DBZ and trading card fans like I am.
I can see that. Yeah,
and then we joked that last week that this podcast is run by 2 broke guys. And yeah, so when we throw our money at something, we want to make sure that it's everything that we hope for and then some. And unfortunately, this game fell.
That is unfortunate, especially coming from such a top tier anime series. You obviously are going to expect the best out of that, even if it is a card game, especially if it's a card game. So yeah, that is unfortunate.
What about your next one?
So my next one is the Will Smith movie Gemini Man. So
yeah.
So this movie, man, when this trailer dropped, I don't know why I was so freaking stoked. When this trailer dropped, I was like, boy, this is gonna be the best movie of the year. All my memories coming back from like Fresh Prince. I'm like, yo, this is the Fresh Prince versus Will Smith.
Yes.
God dang, this is gonna be like an iRobot type of movie.
Right.
Except with little Fresh Prince and Will Smith. It just looked amazing. This trailer, they dumped so much money into the technology, and it really was groundbreaking technology from what I read for this whole. It's new CGI apparently. Will Smith dumped so much money into this thing. The budget was $130 million. Now, for a movie that just uses mainly people, not even like an animated series or anything, $138 million is so much money. So much money. So when it came out, I unfortunately didn't see it opening weekend. However, critics were very quick to critique this movie, harshly, I might add. Right now, it's at 26% on Rotten Tomatoes. Ugh. And from what I heard was the technology was breathtaking. The technology was groundbreaking. But that did not stop the story from sucking so much ass. Mm-hmm. And now that I mention it, I really hope none of this, I really hope I'm not going to just keep spouting off on the story for all of my things. I don't think so. But again, the story in this movie was atrocious. It was very, very bad. Just from what I've heard, I'm not going to spend money on seeing this. I'm not going to even watch it for a $3 rental. It's just, it's really, really bad from what I've read, from what I've heard, from what I've seen the screenplay reviews of it. It's just a huge shame that Will Smith put so much money into what he seemed to be very passionate about. And I mean, to bring back his younger doppelganger self must have been, such a passion in itself. To spend so much money on that, I don't know why they didn't spend money on the writers. They could have really sat down, fleshed out this story, made it a Bourne-esque type of storyline, something with a little bit more action. But apparently what it boils down to is this ex-assassin is being chased by a younger version of himself. And the dialogue just between the two is just a joke. Just, you're me. You made a person out of another person. And I was like, yeah, that's usually how it goes. You usually need two people to make a person. Good job, bro. You got it. You really got it that time. So it's just so stupid.
This is just like the movie version of that meme, I'm you, but better kind of thing.
Yeah, almost exactly. Exactly, dude. I'm like, yo, this is so cheesy, bro. I need some wine with this piece of shit. It's just, it was not good. Not good at all. So Gemini Man, when I saw the trailer, I was hype. I was ready to see this, and it just fell on its face, man. The reviews really shat on it. It really, I really lost my appetite to see it. So, I'm just going to pass on this one just from all the research that I did on it. Better luck next time. From what I heard, this could be an honorable mention to my pleasant surprises of 2019. But from what I've heard, there are rumors of him co-producing a Bel Air movie that's going to be coming out. It's just called Bel Air, and the trailer is fascinating. There isn't anything tangible yet. It's just rumor. But apparently Will Smith saw this fan edit of this movie that basically takes it back to... It's just like a short film written by Morgan Cooper. And he wants to put money in it to make it a series. And like I said, it's still rumor. So... we may be seeing something. It may even be out. I haven't been following it, but it'd be interesting to see if there's something that he could do with that. I mean, I love the story of the Fresh Prince. It was so dramatic, funny, so.
Yeah, there are a lot of key episodes that I like to watch clips of even today, because they hit, they hit your core being. Everyone knows the How Come He Don't Want Me scene.
Yeah. Right.
There's my favorite one is the Uncle Phil's Pull Hustle. That's my favorite one.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Yes.
So that would be really cool to see this happen. And Will Smith, I know he hasn't had a lot of big hits in the last few years, but he's not afraid to put money into something that he believes in. So for something like this, especially if it's a fan film or a fan edit, it would be really cool to see. So it's something to keep our eyes on.
Yeah, I know he spoke with the director at some point and said that he's interested in expanding on this. So, I mean, let's really hope that something like that does come out of it. So we'll see.
Yeah, that'd be really awesome.
So what's your next runner-up?
Well, my next one, now that we've actually, because when I was writing this down, I was like, okay, there's this, and this. And then I realized it's kind of the same thing as my last one. This next game, I had a lot of high hopes for, and I got it. It was very fun, but then again, it fell short, just like the last one. It was Liar Princess and the Blind Prince. I remember showing you the trailer for this one.
Yes,
it looked really great because it has this like really cool like fairy book illustration art style and aesthetic to it.
Yes.
It had a really interesting story that seemed to come out of like a fairy tale book about a prince who's wandering in a dark enchanted forest, hears a beautiful singing voice. It turns out to be a wolf monster that accidentally blinds him, and the prince's father, who hates facial scars, imprisons the prince because, this is a fairy tale. So the wolf creature gives up her singing voice to become human to free the prince and try to cure him. And essentially it's a puzzle platformer / escort mission. I know that last part doesn't sound too enticing, but the whole escorting thing is part of the puzzle, because you have to as the liar princess, you have to lead the prince through the forest to get to a witch's hut, and he won't move unless you're holding his hand, and you have to protect him because he's defenseless. So you have to, weigh your options. It's very cool puzzle solving mechanics. Again, the aesthetics are really good. The music's fantastic. But what really fell short is the game is short. I beat it in a single day.
No way.
Yes, and it was very disappointing.
Oh no!
Because I really wanted it to be longer than that. And they have stuff where you can go back and if you do this action so many times, or if you beat a stage in under so much a time limit, they give you achievements for it, but it doesn't affect the outcome of the story.
And especially with the price points. I'm looking at the price points here. This game is not cheap.
No, it was. It's not a AAA title. It's in between there, between like an indie and AAA.
Yeah.
But they did bundle in a lot of stuff with it. I don't know if when it first came out, it came bundled with an art book, with the soundtrack CD, a couple of other things. So it made it worth the price at the time. But I don't know now if it's just the game package that it comes with. If you were to buy it now. But yeah, it is quite a bit to drop for something that could be beaten in a single day.
That is so bizarre.
Yeah. And the big thing for me, which kind of makes sense when you know how old fairy tales end, it doesn't end on a high point. Yeah. You can kind of gauge how that is. I'm not going to spoil it because I still think it's a game that should be played.
Yeah, for sure.
But it is one of those like, man, I was really hoping it wouldn't go that way, and it did.
Crapola.
Maybe I should have did that one first, because that one doesn't sound as bad as the Dragon Ball Heroes one. But I don't know.
Dang. Okay.
Yeah, I'm really hoping they release another game like this one, maybe make an anthology series. That would be really cool, because they did a really good job, fleshing out these characters. The story was done really well, even though I personally didn't like the ending. I would have liked to have seen, like, if you complete all the challenges, the ending changes, but unfortunately that doesn't happen. There's just not a lot enticement to go back and play it again once you beat it, unless you're a completionist and you have to do everything.
Interesting.
Yeah. So, and there's a lot of games that are out there like that. They're really good one and dones, but this one, I had pre-ordered it last September and it came out in March. So I had been waiting a very long time for that one. So I guess I overhyped myself on it. And that could have been why it was a disappointment on my end. Because we all know hype is can be a huge boon.
Yes,
or
absolutely.
bane something, and that's something I'm going to go into a little later down the list. But yeah, that was my second one.
So my next one would be Men in Black International. As you guys can probably tell, most of mine are going to be movies. I watch more movies than I do play games, so I mean that's going to be a good contrast between you and I.
Right, get a good spread.
Men in Black International, dude. What the heck? I don't know what they were thinking with this movie. This again is a movie that I chose not to see just because of the extreme backlash that it got. And when I was doing my research upon, hey, why not? Let's take a look. Let's see if it's biased, if it's not. What's the gist of this movie? And they pretty much just chose your two biggest stars from Thor Ragnarok. The people that made that movie what it was is such a charming aesthetic, such a charming story. They took those biggest actors, stuck them in a movie, and it was like they stuck them into a playpen and said, do your thing, just go on, do the thing that we like. Because we have, what's that girl's name? Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth as your two Men in Black, I guess. And I get that they're trying to do something different, right? They're trying to introduce a female to a normally two male person role.
Right.
And it stinks like what you would imagine it would stink like. It stinks like your 2016 Ghostbusters iteration. It stinks like it was kind of forced to make a statement. Not that I disagree with that statement being made, but when you're going to do this, especially with movies that are already established, you have to be very careful, because if you do this, you have to be careful of the message that you're sending, because while you can be all for leading female roles, which I am all for, you run the risk of cheesing it up to the point where it affects the story. It affects the back and forth, the synergy, and to its flaw, it loses a lot of its message, because then it's bad. And why would we want to see a movie that's bad if you're trying to send that message? So the message is bad. The message falls on deaf ears, and then you get SJWs and feminists saying, "Oh, well, you just don't like it because a woman is in a leading role." I was like, "No, we didn't like it because it just is wrong. Things aren't meshing here. You could have done so much more, again, with the story to make it very interesting, but there was no attempt at that. There was no attempt at that at all. You just put a leading female role. You put the most handsome male actor in there as well. And again, back to, and I know this isn't about Ghostbusters, but I mean, he played a stupid idiot in Ghostbusters. They made him look like the stupid, dumb guy.
Right.
And I mean, it's just wrong. It's wrong to do. It's wrong to do in this movie. You don't crap on things that have been good for so long. And again, like I said, I know I'm probably wording myself wrong here, but it's just, you're losing a lot of the story by putting propaganda in the movie. And I'm not stupid. It's propaganda. Right. They're trying to do something different. And if you could only spend a couple more months on the script, you could have made it work. You could have made this a very interesting movie. It could have been a good movie, but when you don't put any effort in it, when you just put your two leading roles and just try to make them improv half their lines, which apparently they did, it's just going to be a pile of dog crap. So
yeah, that was a big disappointment, because Men in Black 3 ended the Will Smith, Tommy Lee Jones portion of the series on a very high note. It was the movie really no one asked for, but everybody loved.
Yeah.
The main thing I heard about this one was the writing was not spot on to the point where there was a coherent story. Like they had too many plot points going on that were resolved way too quickly, and without too much pomp and circumstance. Like, okay, well, we did that. We killed this bad guy. Let's go get the next one. There was too much thrown in there that they didn't. You can tell they were spitballing ideas and they didn't have a good main story to go on. And like you said about the actors, they are fantastic. I mean, Chris Hemsworth was the best part of Ghostbusters 2016 because his comedy was. We hadn't seen that kind of comedy from him. I mean, as Thor, he did have a little bit of comedy, but not like, I never thought he would be that funny. But with a strong female role in a movie, we can take a look at Wonder Woman. Now, Wonder Woman was very well done because the story was spot on. Gal Gadot is fantastic. She, embodies Wonder Woman now.
Yes.
So they could have easily gone with something like what happened with Wonder Woman with this one, but I feel Men in Black International is the new Men in Black 2. It was really nothing more than a cash grab. Just trying to make some money on the brand title or the brand name rather than trying to be innovative. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe this is another one that they'll come out with another movie down the line and they'll tweak it, but and like I said, I'm not opposed to the message. I'm like what you're saying with Wonder Woman, with Charlize Theron in Mad Max Fury Road. I love the message itself. I love it. Please give us more strong female roles. Yes. But give them the respect that they deserve. Give them a script. Allow them to act at their full capacity. And it's kind of weird how this kind of turned out, because from what I heard, Thor Ragnarok was mostly improv as well. And that was so charming. I don't know. I couldn't tell you the difference between this movie and that, because apparently there was a lot of improv in this one, but it just fell flat. That's what was so charming in Thor Ragnarok, is the back and forth, the genuineness of it. So I don't know. Maybe in this next movie, they can give them a little bit more of a structure to go off of and still include that back and forth. But we'll see. I'm really interested to see what they're going to do next, since this first iteration of this, of the new Men in Black was such a flop. I really hope that they can come back and do something different with the next one, hopefully. Oh, yeah, absolutely. Because the Men in Black series, it originally was a comic book before it became a movie. Right. And there's a lot to go on. So they have, material that they can try to adapt. And once the 97 movie came out, they kind of reworked the series to include Agents J and K. I mean, remember the cartoon in the late 90s? That was a pretty good cartoon. It only lasted, 1-2 seasons, not a very long running show, but it stuck more close to the comics and was very good. They can try to do something like that. Maybe make another animated series or a TV series, see how that plays out. Yeah. Or rework everything for a new movie. But I don't know, this is something that they need to take to heart. They need to learn from their mistakes on this past one. Yeah. And correct it, because they did that with Men in Black 3, and that is that's a really good movie to go through. Yeah. To watch. All right. Well, my last one on this Games That Fell Short trilogy. This one is from Nicalis or Nicalis. I don't know, Nicholas. I don't know how to pronounce their the studio's name. But they localized games like Cave Story, 1001 Spikes, a lot of those really cool indie games that came out in the late 2000s, early 2010s. This one is Crystal Crisis. Okay. This one takes all of their IPs and mixes it with the puzzle fighter mechanics from Puzzle Fighter. So it's a color block Tetris style puzzle game, like Bejeweled, or I can keep bringing it up as Puzzle Fighter because it's what it is.
Yeah.
So it looked really cool. I love Puzzle Fighter. It was a very fun game to play. They only made the one game, Capcom. They've re-released it, but they never made it into a full series. So to see this type of gameplay come back was really exciting. It looked really cool because they were using 3D polygon characters on 2.5 puzzle map, and it had its own story that was really cool. It was narrated by Peter Cullen, who a lot of nerds know as the voice of Optimus Prime.
That is so cool.
Yeah, and it came out, and the story mode was really weird. It wasn't more of a story. It was like you pick a character, you go through, and there's really no like coherent ending to it.
Mm-hmm.
Just you play through it. It didn't have a lot going with it. I beat it with like 4 or 5 characters, and it's like, this is it. This is not getting any better.
So it kind of fell short from what you were expecting.
Yes. It's still fun to play multiplayer because there's a huge difference between playing, an AI and playing another player.
Sure.
But like a lot of games that come out that are multiplayer, like Smash Brothers, you have to unlock the rest of the characters. You only have, I forget how many you start with originally, but you have a very small amount, and you have to unlock the rest. And the ones that you unlock, they're not very good. Like one of them you can unlock is a zombie, and his counterattack sucks. So it's like, well, when are you ever going to play with them unless to give someone a handicap just to show off and be that dick? It's like, oh, I could beat you with, I could beat you with this fool.
Right.
Yeah, it's like I can beat you with Krillin or something.
Right.
So this was just one that it didn't get my hopes up as high as like Liar Princess, but it was one I was very excited for because I love the puzzle fighter mechanics. And it just didn't do it for me. This one, I really tried to get into it, and after a while, I honestly have never really gone back to it.
Dang, that's so unfortunate.
Yeah.
Just from what you're, talking about, I'm looking at stills and gameplay here. It looks aesthetically pleasing.
Yes,
but
and
I guess like the whole, what we've been saying this whole time, if you're not gonna jam pack it full of a worthy story, or even like what's it called, gameplay, if it's not going to be worth playing, spending that much money, that much time to enjoy something that could be finished in such a short amount of time, or even a lackluster, would it be a story mode, or a single player campaign?
Yeah, I guess story mode might be stretching it a bit far. It's more like the old...
It's like a Dr. Mario type thing, isn't it?
Kind of. But it follows like the story modes for the old console versions of fighting games, where you would pick a character and they have like a general... like you get their motivation in the beginning, and then halfway through it you fight one of their rival characters that's part of their motivation. And then
it has a very classic... look and feel to it.
Yeah, the single player story mode of that is very similar to the story mode of old fighting games, but it's very repetitive. There was nothing to set each character apart other than the cutscenes that would interrupt the gameplay every so often. And even then, the final bosses, it's just you fight one of 2 final bosses, and their motivation's like, why are you here? There's just like, it just didn't make much sense to me. I don't know. Maybe during a party I have with friends over, we'll pop that in, see what everyone thinks about it. But we'll probably end up switching to something like Smash.
Well, after you told me what you told me, I don't think I'd want to play it.
Yeah, and it's very unfortunate because Nicalis, or I'm just going to call it Nicalis.
Nicalis,
their games are very fun. They tend to be on the shorter side.
Oh, well, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, so that ends my trilogy of games that fell short for me this year.
Okay. Well, let's see. I'm kind of iffy on touching this one, just because I don't know. Okay, so my second to last one is Brie Larson.
Okay.
Brie Larson was a character in 2019. She before 2019, I had no issues with her. She was fine.
Oh, absolutely.
But with her coming out with her Captain Marvel, it was fine too. I mean, I didn't like the movie. Again, a lot of issues with the story. With it, it was her interviews. It was the way that she took the character. It was the way that she interacted with the other Avengers cast. There was a lot of anti-white guy culture. There was a lot of alienating the fans that was giving her so much popularity and money. The fact that she said in one of her speeches that she didn't want any middle-aged white guys to show up to the premiere. And I know that's, painting with a broad brush from the entire interview. She still meant it. She wanted... So I should be fair and say that the point of that speech was that she wanted more diversity at her opening premiere for Captain Marvel. She wanted more women, of course, and she wanted, more, I don't know, LGBTQ of communities there. And so she was basically wanting to break the mold of your typical white guy coming to see superhero movies, which is fine. But
right.
The fact that she specifically said, I don't care or want to hear the opinions of these white guys at my movie, that was kind of weird. There's different ways to say that, because you're going to get those white guys, those middle-aged white guys that have been coming to see these movies for so long. Her interviews with all of the Avengers cast was very cringeworthy. If you look up these interviews with the Avengers for Avengers Endgame, it's so cringy, so weird, because she gets into these little spats with like Chris Hemsworth, with Don Cheadle, and it's so strange because she's over here wanting to overshadow them, and she's had one movie with Marvel. Well, at that point she's had two, but her battling Chris Hemsworth, like, oh, what are we fighting now? Are we fighting? Do you think you're stronger than me? And Chris just laughing it off, like, yeah, like just completely blowing it off. But she was very, very condescending. She was rude. She was wanting to pick fights. She was not accepting of male culture. And again, it's this whole thing where it's like, if you're not a feminist, then you're a bad person. And quite the contrary. I feel like I am a feminist because I like equality. Equality is having both sexes on an equal playing field, not belittling one sex over the other.
Right.
And I feel like a great contrast to show, especially with the movies that we're talking about, is the way that Scarlett Johansson handled herself throughout the interviews. She was very intertwined. She was on the same playing field as all of the other characters. Nobody really paid her any mind, I guess, because she wasn't really making a stink about it the way that Brie Larson was. Brie Larson made it a point to step on her co-stars. And that wasn't the point of Captain Marvel. That wasn't the point of her heroic lead. The point was to introduce a strong female character into that segment, that portion, and it just felt very awkward. The message was definitely lost with that. She was making it a political thing. She was making it a propaganda thing. And I was kind of like, do what Scarlett's doing. Just be powerful in your own right. Spread your own message. Scarlett Johansson, she came with it, man. She was very charming. She was selling the movie. She made it a point to show that this entire ride was very emotional for her from beginning to end, that, you know, her last movie was an emotional ride for her, and that got me, man. Like when she was talking about how much fun she was having, you know, that's what I want to hear in the interviews leading up to a huge. Show us the good, not necessarily the bad. Show us how you're having fun with your co-stars, not how you're that you can pick up Mjolnir or Stormbreaker. Like, yo, nobody's asking for that. It's fine. You're gonna open up a can of worms with that. So just that was it was awkward. It was very, very weird. It took a lot of the sweetness out of the Avengers Endgame thing for me around that time. It was very weird.
And that's sad, because this was a bookend for a very long era in a film series that hasn't really been seen in decades with the MCU. Mm-hmm. So to have that kind of negativity associated with it, especially since Captain Marvel was supposed to be, she was supposed to be the main reason. I mean, they didn't release her movie till after Infinity War, and she was the thing that was supposed to give the Avengers a fighting chance in the Endgame.
Yeah.
So to have that kind of negativity associated with that character, maybe like with the previous movies we've mentioned, you know, in the future they'll try to correct that.
Oh yeah, but, and I do want to say that I hope I dislike what I've seen so far. I'm not gonna like, if you know Captain Marvel 2 comes out, I'm not gonna like not go see it. I'm very interested to see what she does. I hope that she just doesn't keep on alienating stuff like this. I hate this propaganda. I really do. I don't like it. You know,
yeah.
I believe in true feminism. Let's all be equal. Let's all come to a level playing field. Let's all see it together. Let's be unified, and, you know, stop with this whole superiority thing, because that's what we don't like.
Yeah. Going back to to Wonder Woman, because this is that's a perfect movie to compare to. You had several movie theaters. One here in town, you know, had a women's only showing for Wonder Woman when it came out, and it raised a lot of negative attention, not just from the men that wanted to see it, but also from women too. They didn't want to be associated with that kind of, no, we don't, you know, what you're saying. Everyone should be equal. Everyone should get a chance to see the movie. We shouldn't just pander to one side.
Yeah, exactly.
But no, I agree. Everyone, you know, I'm all for a strong female lead. In fact, I like them. Hayao Miyazaki, a lot of his films, in fact, almost every one of his films and Studio Ghibli films has a strong female protagonist. Mm-hmm. If you go back and you watch them, yes, they all do, and they're all done fantastic. Nausicaa of the Valley of the Wind, Princess Mononoke, Castle in the Sky, Whispers from the Heart. They all have a strong female lead, and they don't blatantly throw it in your face to the point where it's like, okay, I see what you're trying to say. Back off. You're smothering me, kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's just a natural, organic way of having the character in the story. Yeah. But I think mainstream Hollywood is just so chained down by the quote unquote tradition that's been around in film and cinematography for the last 150 years or so that they have a hard time breaking away. You still have these bigwigs, that are approving movies that are either they're going too far into what you brought up in these movies on this list, or they're not going far enough. Like they're not willing to take that risk because they fear they'll alienate an audience and lose out on money.
Yeah, and I can see that too.
Yeah, that's going to take a long time to break away.
And I get it, I get it. It's a very fine balance, believe me.
Yes.
You know, like I'm really not opposed to, because I know that Wally West, the character that plays Wally West in the Flash, he had mentioned that he had wanted a gay character in the show. The character that plays geez, I want to call him Captain Frost. What's his name?
Captain Cold.
Captain Cold. Yeah, there we go. He's gay in real life. And shoot, like I follow both of them on Twitter, and they post, you know, pictures of their boyfriends or their husbands, and it doesn't bother me not one bit. But it's blatantly obvious when you do something for the sake of doing something and it not pertaining anything to the movies, right, or the shows or the comics. There was one scene in the Crisis on Earth X, I believe, last year for their whole crossover episodes, where this guy that Captain Cold apparently has a crush on, he's like shirtless like half of the time, just showing off his rock hard bod, and I'm like, yo, what's up with this guy being shirtless all the time? And then towards the end of it, you see him and Captain Cold and this guy, they kiss. And I'm like, yo, that's fine. If they're going to kiss each other and, like, you know, wish each other like, oh, you mean the world to me, I'm okay with that. But they had to build it up like, oh, this guy is so muscular and shirtless, that must mean that he's gay later on, right? That was so weird to me. Like, yo, I could have been fine with just the kiss. You didn't need to include all that, bro. It's just weird. It's weird the way that they go about it, but... you know, I'm pretty sure that we'll find our place with progressive, you know,
maybe what they
culture.
were trying to do is like how, remember Carl's Jr. used to have those like awkwardly sexy,
you're right. Maybe that is what they were trying to do.
Yeah, maybe they're trying to do is like, let's get some male eye candy out there.
You're so right. Maybe that is what they were trying to do, man. That's very true. Captain Cold's over here biting his lip like, hey, is it hot in here? I'm like, yo, get out of here with that. That's too easy, bro. That's too easy.
Yeah. They'll get it down to a science.
Yeah, hopefully, yo. Like I guess we need, you know, things like this to be introduced, like the technology in Gemini Man, so that we can perfect it in the future. I guess It's inevitable. We'll find our place to where, you know, it's a good solid medium for everybody. So my
next one was kind of this one. There's a bit of hope for it because it's something that can happen, but it was Persona 5 not being announced for the Switch this past year.
Oh, so it wasn't.
No. Everyone thought they were going to do it because when Smash Brothers released last year, the first character they were was Joker, right? On 5, and everyone was like, "Oh, does this mean we're going to get it on the Switch?" And then people, you know, those people like they go through like the copyright things to see what game companies are renewing titles and stuff. Well, Persona 5 was one of the ones that popped up on Nintendo's list this year. They're like, "Oh, this is it," and then Atlas said, "Oh, there's a Persona 5 Royale coming out later this year," and like, "Oh, that's gonna be it. That's gonna be it." And it turned out not to be it. It was still going to be, PlayStation only. I think Xbox. I don't know. Did they do it on Xbox? I'm not sure if they did, but they made an update of the game that has new characters and different social links and new bosses and stuff, and it was left out on the Switch. Now hopefully they'll port it over eventually, because Persona 5 was one of the best RPGs of 2017. Stylish as hell, great story. If you haven't played it and you're a fan of JRPGs, you definitely have to give it a try.
So what exactly is Persona 5 for people that...
Persona 5 is part of the Persona series of Shin Megami Tensei, which deals a lot with the Jungian philosophy of people having the shadow versions of themselves.
Right.
And in the Persona world, they manifest in the forms of demons and monsters that represent figures from mythological religious history. So you'll have like the pixies from Gaelic folklore. You have like Pavarti from the Eastern. So all these different figures appear as these different types of persona. And Persona 5 deals with a group of high school misfits that gain the ability to enter a person's heart and kind of do like an Inception kind of thing where they can steal a person's heart to change the way that person acts. And they do it to like the worst people in their city to try and make the city a better place. And this one was extremely stylish because they based it off of like the old Spanish pulp fiction magazines of like Zorro and like bandits that work on the side of good. And it was fantastic. And to not put it on the Switch would be a huge mistake in everyone's eyes for Atlus not to do. So we're hoping that next year, we'll get a port announcement that's coming to the Switch, because they did that with Dragon Ball FighterZ. It was out for 2 years, and then they moved it over to the Switch, and it plays great on the Switch, with the exception of a few online things. But to hold us over, we are getting a Persona 5 game very similar to Hyrule Warriors and Fire Emblem Warriors.
Oh, wow.
So it's a Musou style game where you get to play as the characters from Persona 5. So I'm excited for that one. I haven't heard much news else on that one throughout this year, so there's not much on terms of release date, but we do know that one is coming. And Atlus has a really cool way of making these side games and spin-offs canon in the game world. Like with Persona 3 and 4. Sorry about that. Someone knocked on my door.
That's okay.
Where was I? So for like Persona 3 and 4, they made rhythm games that are canon. They take place after the main story. So I'm kind of hoping that's what they do with this Musou style game that's coming out soon. And I'm crossing every finger, toe, eye that I can to in the hopes that Persona 5 gets put on the Switch, because that would be totally awesome if it did. But the fact that we didn't hear anything, and all the build up to it with the copyright licensing and everything that people were picking up on, and the announcement of Joker in Smash, it was again one of those things where hype just kind of shot us in the foot.
Yeah.
Here, but always. There's always next year.
Yeah, there's always next year. Yeah, I mean, it just seems kind of obvious that it will eventually come. Yeah, it just seems like it's an inevitable. So we'll see. I mean, I can't imagine it's not going to be here next year. It has to come.
They're porting games from other systems. Like when the Switch launched, LA Noire was on the Switch just a few months afterwards. Yeah. Now we're getting Assassin's Creed game.
Yeah,
we have Assassin's Creed 3 collection, and now the Rebel collection, which includes Black Flag and I forget the other one. But yeah, they're being put on there. So I mean, the Switch can do it. It can easily do it.
Right.
So it would be a mistake not to put it on there.
It's coming. Yeah. Hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. Fingers crossed.
All right.
Like, hey, next year is just a couple of weeks away from when we're recording this. So
yeah, very true. Very close. It's here.
So, do you have another one for your disappointments of the year?
Yeah, my last biggest disappointment in 2019. This might be my biggest disappointment in this decade, to be honest with you. Y'all, this has been haunting me since 2008. So this has even been surpassing this decade. But Avengers Endgame, surprisingly enough, has made its way on the top of my list, my number one disappointment in 2019, because of the way they did my boy Hulk. Now, Let me sit up on my chair a little bit. So, the Hulk has been one of my most favorite, easily my top 3. I don't know who would be my number 1, but Ghost Rider might be in there as well. The Hulk, man, he did dirty in this whole freaking franchise of the Avengers, his own movie, Ragnarok. So the Hulk in Marvel is one of the most powerful beings, might be the most powerful being in the entire franchise. Now, the abilities that they gave this creature in these movies have been so watered down. And when I saw Avengers Endgame, I was like, yo, my boy Hulk's gonna come with it. He's gonna be redeeming himself from his erectile dysfunction episode in Infinity War. And so we see Professor Hulk, which apparently is not Professor Hulk. Apparently his official name is Smart Hulk, which already enraged me because I'm like, no, that's Professor Hulk, bro. And it's like, no, it's Smart Hulk. It's Smart Hulk. And I'm like, okay, that's not even a thing, but whatever. And so, yeah, they didn't even tap into his true abilities in the entire franchise, this entire 12-year run. They didn't even tap into his potential. Like, he can hold up continents. He can breathe underwater. One thing that got me really upset was the time that Scarlet Witch was able to take over his mind. And that's one of his main abilities, is to resist mind control. That's one of his most powerful abilities, is that he is so strong that Bruce Banner is still in there, that he is still so intelligent that he can resist mind manipulation. And the fact that one of the most... I understand, like, that was a good way for us to be introduced to the Hulkbuster. I'm not going to be mad at that. That was a really good scene. But he can't be mind manipulated like that. What are you talking about? Okay, that was one of the worst ones. Second was in this movie in Endgame, when they said, Banner, can you handle it? You know, meaning when he was going to put on the gauntlet and snap his fingers, he's like, no, it's okay. Most of the radiation in here is gamma. And I was like, oh shit, dude, he's going to be able to absorb all that gamma. Maybe we'll see like Worldbreaker Hulk. Maybe the gamma radiation will just overflow his entire body to the point where we just see raw power, right? And so like you see all this gamma radiation just like overflowing with him, right? And so he does his snap, and then his arm gets crippled, and that's it. And then he has a crippled arm for the rest of the movie. He has a crippled arm. This guy can super heal himself. In the comics, he got blasted to the point where his bones were just exposed. His bones were exposed in the comic books, and then he regenerated himself in the blink of an eye because he's the freaking Hulk. He can repair himself at such impressive speeds, even more so when there's gamma radiation involved. And this guy gets hurt, and I get it, it's the stones, but whatever. It's gamma radiation. It's gamma radiation, yo. That should be feeding him like a tasty treat, like apples to a Shinigami, bro. That is supposed to be his superpower. That should be his elixir of life. And that crippled him. What the heck are you talking about? That crippled him. Jesus Christ, dude. And then he's still Professor Hulk, like all that gamma radiation didn't corrupt his freaking pores. Yo, that really was a disrespectful moment for my boy. All right. They freaking massacred him, bro.
Do you need a moment?
Golly, man. I was hoping for, like, this is Endgame. This is Endgame. This is the end. I was like, dang, he's gonna come with it. He's gonna be, I thought he was gonna bust out of the Hulk armor at some point, like we saw those leaks from Funko Pop. Yo, that didn't happen. Jesus Christ. That didn't. Come on, man. I was expecting so much from this guy, and they really disrespected the Hulk in this movie. They didn't give him any. In my opinion, he didn't redeem himself at all. Yeah, we got Smart Hulk, but we could have seen so much, man, so much. And you know what else? So one of his biggest powers is gamma. What is it called? So he can release gamma pulses.
The gamma burst.
Yeah, whenever he's extremely mad, he can release gamma blasts that essentially cooks any living organism. Okay, it's a very powerful move. We didn't see that at all during this whole Infinity Saga. Okay, we didn't see that at all. You know where we saw it? We saw it in the 2004 movie Hulk, when he was battling another freaking stupid character that I forget. What was his name?
Oh, is this the one with
Nick Nolte?
Eric Bana?
Yeah,
that was the
Absorbing Man of all freaking villains. Yo, he was showing off one of his best abilities in this POS movie, bro. He was showing him, like, he was actually doing the gamma pulse, and it's all crappy CGI glory. And I was like, oh, that's cool. But it could have been cooler now with the technology that we have. Shoot, he's over here wasting his abilities back in 2004 with the Absorbing Man. What a villain. What a villain to do that with. The Absorbing Man, okay. What the heck? Dude! You could have been doing it proper, bro, with Ultron, with anybody else but the Absorbing Man. Freaking thing, man. Oh. So, yeah. That has been my biggest disappointment with 2019 freaking Avengers Endgame, and the way they did not do my boy Hulk right. They just completely disrespected the guy. So,
oh man. Well, I don't know how I'm going to follow that one up, because man, you got on your soapbox.
I can see the rest of my time to you.
If the court pleases, can we take a short recess while he gathers his posts himself?
Let us come back after a 5-minute recess.
Yeah, mine is nowhere near as emotional as that. But for me, oh man, my biggest disappointment for the year is the negative fan reactions to a lot of announcements and stuff that came out. And to me, it just these kind of negative reactions that I see quote unquote fans do makes everyone look like a giant spoiled baby.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah. So let's take one, for example. We talked about it briefly last week about Pokemon Sword and Shield, where after the announcement of the national decks not being brought over, people were immediately clamoring for Dexit, to ban the game before they even had a chance to play it. Because it's just like, dude, do you know how hard it is to program 800 and some odd Pokemon into a game?
Yeah.
In a short time?
Yeah.
And still have it come out pretty good?
I know that was a big thing for a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like, you're not going to play with like 95% of them. You're only going to take your top 12.
It's true, but I guess it's for those completionists, right?
Well, even then, yesterday, on the 21st of December, the completionist released his own video on Pokemon Sword and Shield, and he was actually all for the reduction of the Pokedex, because the last time he completed a Pokemon game was with Ruby, Sapphire, and Emerald.
Jesus.
And
wow.
It took him and some of his friends over 500 hours, I think 500, to complete the entire Pokedex. And that's not just beating the game, that's the Pokedex. So, and there were 300 and something Pokemon back then. So to have just an even 400 made it a lot simpler for him. And all the streamlining they did that they did so to make it easier to catch Pokemon and to find the Pokemon you want, he was grateful for, because it made his job a lot easier. And I'm right there with him. I really enjoyed the changes and streamlining to catching Pokemon in this one.
Yeah.
But you still have all those people, some of my friends are still included, that they are going to do a hard pass on this version simply because the National Pokedex is not in there. And I will guarantee you most of them wouldn't even attempt to complete the dex. They just wanted it in there, and they're saying, oh, well, Game Freak is just being lazy. It's like, no, it's not. I mean, if you don't like it, you start your own video game company and make a game like that. Make it the way you want, and then see how hard it is.
Yeah,
that's not cool. Enjoy something for what it is, not for what you want it to be. And I know that's a little contradictory to what I was saying about the games falling short. I gave them a fair shot. Okay, I still bought them and I played
exactly.
them.
You still supported them, absolutely.
Yes. So I gave them a fair shot. I didn't say, oh no, it's just because of this, I'm not going to pick it up. So I didn't do that. But then you get another one like back in, was it BlizzCon, when they announced the new Diablo game and it's going to be strictly on mobile? And you have
I remember that.
Ooh, I'm like, and I was laughing my ass off. Don't you all have cell phones?
The infamous speech.
It's a Diablo game on a mobile that you can take with you.
Right.
Which, aside from Diablo 3, you can't do that right now.
Right.
At least to my knowledge, you can't do that right now. And mobile gaming has gone leaps and bounds from when it started back in 2004, 2005. You have games, full on games that you can play on mobile phones that are pretty damn good, and they have good stories and stuff. They're not like the pay to win or the wait to play kind of games. You can actually do stuff like one of the Steven Universe games that came out, was it Save the Light or Attack the Light? Came out a few years ago. It played a lot like the Paper Mario games, and it was fun. And you have these people saying, "Oh, it's mobile and it's gonna suck." It's like, give it a chance. You have any? They just showed the teaser trailer for it, and people are already shitting on it because it's on mobile.
Right? Yeah. I mean, I not too much of a Diablo player, but the backlash was palpable, man. It was really bad. People really did not like that. And I get it. I kind of get it. I don't agree. But I get it. They were really looking forward to Diablo 4.
No, but
and they're getting it.
They're still getting Diablo 4.
Yes, it's been announced already.
Yeah.
So whatever.
But to have one on mobile is I'm pretty excited for. I'm looking forward to that one coming out. I just, one thing I hope they don't do is it's not one of those pay to play kind of things where you have to.
Dude, so many games are like that these days. I'm so mad.
That's not a good what's the word? It's not a good thing to do for games.
Yeah.
Because for a short time I was into Clash of Clans, and I kept getting raided by people that just kept dropping money into upgrading everything, and it wasn't fun at the end of it. It just sucked everything out of it. There was no reason to play.
Right.
So I hope that's not what you do with the mobile Diablo. But I know we'll see what happens when that comes out. But they should have waited before,
to say the least, right?
Start riot. And another one. This one goes back to a while back, because I'm kind of cheating with this one, but for like The Last Jedi, since the new Star Wars movie just came out this past weekend, people are like, they were praying that The Last Jedi would be stricken from
jeez, man.
canon. Yeah, because they didn't like it. I thoroughly enjoyed it.
So you saw it? Very nice.
A few movies I actually did see.
Very cool.
But I thoroughly enjoyed the movie. It's one of my favorite Star Wars movies because it delved into it dived into how the characters are that we've never seen them before. It humanized Luke a lot. You had a really interesting relationship building between Kylo Ren and Rey.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people didn't like that. They didn't like how dark it felt. and the sad note it ended on. But people forget that's how Empire ended. Empire is the second act of the original trilogy.
Yeah.
And when you read a lot of plays, the second act of a play is usually the darkest one because it has to set up the third act.
Right.
And a lot of people don't realize that. But again, they wanted to bash the movie because it wasn't what they wanted it to be. They had 2 years of building these fan theories, and when it finally came out, their fan theories were proven incorrect, and like, oh, I hate this movie. And that's not it. It's like they have to enjoy something for what it is, not what they wanted it to be.
It's hard. It's hard for some people, though.
Yeah, and I get that. Going back to the whole hype thing, people hype themselves up to it to the point where nothing could be on that level of acceptance for them.
Yeah.
Like, what's another one? I had one in mind, but one that's probably going to happen when it eventually does come out before we die is Avatar 2.
Yeah.
I have a feeling people are hyping themselves up for. Oh, no. Here we go. Frozen 2. Frozen 2 was hyped up. And while still a decent movie, people didn't like it as much as the first one. And for this one, this is a little bit more on Disney's fault because they had a lot to live up to, and their story wasn't strong enough. Because they kind of like what they did with Men in Black International is they threw a lot of plot points in there and unnecessary characters instead of just focusing on ones that would make the story good.
The things that made the first one a success. Right. A lot of the time they divert from that, trying to experiment, and it's like, don't do that.
Yeah, they try to catch lightning in a bottle again, and instead they get electrocuted.
Yeah.
But see, that one wasn't so much as a bad negative fan reaction as it just didn't live up to the hype.
Right.
That was built up for it. Yeah, my main issue with a lot of the reveals that got a lot of negative publicity was because of the fans jumping the gun.
Yeah.
And because it's not this, or because it's this, I hate it. I automatically hate it. That's just a big issue I have with fan culture in this day and age,
right,
where everyone feels they're entitled to have things done their way. That just makes everyone seem like a bunch of big whiny babies.
Yeah.
And
it's true. It is unfortunate that that culture is prone to that. But
yeah,
hopefully
I don't think
we can understand the business end of it as well. Like what we've been saying, there's a lot more work that goes into it than just something to get outraged about.
Right. Yeah. But I'm hoping this is something like, I hope this mentality changes. I doubt it's going to do it anytime soon, because the internet allows a lot of people freedom to express their opinions anonymously. And that can, again, be good and bad. And right now, I think it's more of a bad thing, because they don't do it responsibly.
Right.
But I don't know. We'll have to wait and see on this. But yeah, that was my last disappointment for the past year.
And I have done my breathing exercises, so I am I'm back at a normal level.
All right. Well, let's try to turn things around then, and wash this bad taste out of our mouth by going into the pleasant surprises that we've had this past year. Yeah, we've been talking for about a good hour and a half or so. So we're going to go ahead and take a quick break. Having just finished our disappointments for 2019, we'll come back with our pleasant surprises of 2019 in a second parter for episode 2.1.
Yes.
So yeah, stay tuned. Remember, give us your biggest disappointments in the comments below. Try to keep them civil.
Right.
You don't want to have to disable comments on the second episode.
Yeah, right.
But we'll be back in just a short bit.
Yes, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.